Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. We are starting Witch on the Holy Nights demo. Mahou Tsukai no Yoru, finally, after all this time, is getting a proper English release. This is a huge deal. Huge deal. This marks an opportunity for us Type Moon fans to really plant our feet and get more localization, more support for a lot of amazing stuff that just never gets brought over. And that's amazing. It's a very good thing. So I also, since this is a big release, have in the description of this very video a whole slew of links for you to follow to get your hands on this game. The general idea is that it comes out digitally on December 8th. I don't know how much of that I can stream personally. They say that they're going to have different streaming restrictions and guidelines for that. The demo, they've gave us the 100% go-ahead, so I'm very excited about that. We'll be doing the entire demo here. I have no idea how big it is. Hopefully it's not too long, but you know what, we'll find out. We'll find out, and there's that. So it comes out digitally on the 8th, worldwide, English, Japanese, whatnot. It may not be in your region's PlayStation or Switch store, but you can always download it from the other regions with prepaid points. The hard part is if you are doing that, especially from Japan, I don't know what rating this game has in Japan, but you may not be able to buy it. You weren't able to buy the Tsukihime remake in Japan digitally because of the age restriction. You needed to have a Japanese credit card. You could not use prepaid PlayStation points or Switch points, which was absolute bullcrap. So the better option would then, at that point, be to buy it physically. Now, physically, from Japan, you can import the version that has English subtitles. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, it's the exact same version that the US is getting through Aniplex. It's the same thing either way, but if you import the Japanese version, that's how you would do it outside of North America to get your hands on a physical version, and you wouldn't have to worry there. I have links for that through Play Asia, for both the limited edition and standard edition of the game. Now, I believe on Play Asia, the limited edition is sold out at the moment. That might change, I don't know. But now I also know that the only physical version that North America is getting officially is the limited editions for PS4 and Switch, and those are available on Amazon. They will be perhaps available through other retailers and stuff if you check Aniplex, but I've given links to both of those. No PC release. I don't know why. Type Moon's been doing that with both the Tsukihime remake and this. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Looking forward to an enjoyable stream. It's just mean, man. Yeah, I got a reliable source. Live outside the UK. You can buy it from Play Asia, and it'll work. Of course. Yeah, if you live outside North America, USA and Canada, I guess is what they mean when they say that, import the Japanese version from Play Asia. It has English support. You can play it on any console. Neither Switch nor PlayStation these days is region locked, so you're good. Will the Tsukihime remake ever come to PC? No, but you can technically cheat by getting a Switch emulator. You could do that, in theory. Also, one thing to note is that if you want the physical version from North America through Aniplex of America, be aware that that physical limited edition comes out on January 27th, a full almost 2 months after the digital version comes out. So for me, because I'm supporting them like crazy, I'm going to get the digital version and the physical version. But yeah, I think if you import the Play Asia Japanese version, that does come out in December, so you might get that earlier. I'm not really sure why they want to do that. Hey, Jonathan Padua, member for 5 months. Hey, just want to say your videos are always a treat to see your options on certain topics that I haven't even been aware of. Have really opened your eyes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, all the information you need to get your hands on this game is in this video's description. So without further ado, let us begin. And if Guinevere comes, that was pretty. If Guinevere comes to whatever the hell it's called, God, I'm zoning out. If she comes to JP in FGO, that would be cool. I want to see what Guinevere looks like, damn it. Okay. Yeah, do whatever you need, buddy. You never would have thought that you'd have to save during a demo, but, you know. It is what it is. Like I said, though, Connor, there's 2 catches to the Amazon one. For one, it's designed for North America. You can play it on anything else. But it won't come out until January 27th, that specific one. The Amazon links don't release till the 27th of January. But if you want the game when it comes out physically, you gotta go the Play Asia route. I think it comes out earlier. Debating on which of the 3 versions of Toko Aozaki should be possessed by... Who? My friend dropped the game in our Discord yesterday, saw the Type Moon logo and Alco. I thought it was a Magician's Night spinoff. Then I learned that this is the localized name. It's had this name for a long time, actually. Hey, Game King. Finally off work today and can catch a stream anyways. Need to get a fresh Windows reinstall on my PC, so my PC's out of commission. Oh, well, hopefully while it's reinstalling or whatever it needs to do, you know? Yeah. This is a story. Really? Really now? Of 2 witches residing in a mansion upon a hill. Yup. Like, it's been known as Witch on the Holy Night since well before anyone officially localized it. Okay, cat, what are you doing? This is such a beautiful visual novel. Like, as far as visual novels go, these are some of the best. And okay, my cat's fucking with the PlayStation. Give me a second. Kenny, move. Please. I'm gonna have to kick you out of this room if you keep doing that. Which one's your birthday? What is this being played on? PlayStation. Admittedly, PlayStation is still a much more powerful console. Okay, I just chased you away, Kenny. Ah, sorry. Alright, Kenny, you're out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you gotta get out now. I know you're lonely. I know, but you can't climb on the PlayStation. You can't. You got as far as the Old English fan translation went? Yeah, it didn't go too far, huh? Alright, now I'm back. Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of gray. Perhaps by deliberate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. On moonless nights, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Alco decided the drawing room to the east would be a good place to rest. But knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she started up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall to the 2nd floor hall. There was a 3rd floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. I said it's more powerful than the Switch, Game King. What, are you trying to say that the Xbox is more powerful? I don't know. Maybe, but it doesn't have a lot of Japanese games, so it doesn't matter to me. Even if it were. Yeah, this is totally part of the Nasuverse. There was a third-floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. She had never set foot in there in the 2 years she had lived here, though. The Kuonji mansion was more or less divided into 2 wings, east and west. Sounds a lot like the Tono Manor. Alco had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms were more than enough as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world, or lead you to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. Alco's room was at the end of the East Wing's long corridor. She had elected for a smaller room for no other reason than that she thought it would be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 9-shelf bookcases. That is all she brought with her from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She borrowed the next room down for her own purposes.
そうだ、アリスにもらった見張りと壊れてないかチェックしないと。
Well, if this were only available on PC, but it's not. That is not an option. She needed to see if the project she had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she'd been living for the last year, and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become, a place of solitude that only she could enter, or so she thought. Ah, crap. Hello? I'm streaming, what's up? I just started, what are you talking about? Are you okay though, love? Okay, as long as it's not urgent, okay? Alright, love you! 'Tis Ari-chan. What price? Are you talking about the Japanese version? Yeah. Imports are always going to be pricey. Bertie? The nosy neighbor that had intruded upon her sanctuary flew away. While not exceptionally talented, Alco did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. Ari-chan's doing fine. She's on another little mini vacation. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the first floor. Turtleneck. She was feeling sick beforehand, but I think she's doing much better now. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing, and the corridor is dark as a cellar. Oh, that's the Amazon price? Damn! Damn! I thought it was only like 60-something. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway. I do have a very busy life. When I'm not streaming like this, I'm busting my butt making hour-long lore videos of El Malloy case files for you. Actually, for you guys, next week is, it's an all Saber all week long. It's Saber week next week. Because it is nothing but Garden of Avalon lore, broken into 3 parts, and I'm going to release all 3 of them throughout next week. That's the special treat. It's wonderful. I can't wait to show you guys. I love Artoria, so I hope you look forward to it. This is a demo. We are playing a demo, Danny. The game itself releases in English on digital January 8th. Is the localization for this good? So far, it seems okay. It had been her idea to update the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns, and around the room were large, majestic sofas, and a luxurious Persian rug. Amidst it all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. It stood looking over the other furniture like the emperor with no clothes. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Alco it was an essential commodity. They had fought for its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement, and now mutually enjoyed this modern comfort. Yes, you need a TV, you poor, poor people, you sad, lonely mages. See you later, Connor. It's coming out physical December 8th. If you import the Japanese version, it will. If you order the US limited edition physical, it doesn't come out until January 27th, which is weird. Well, it's not 99 cents. Early access gets you my stuff, for the $5 tier. The $1 tier gets you access to all of my, lessons in magecraft ahead of time. You'd be super hyped if Lost Belt 7 Grand Saber Artoria leak is true. Yeah, that'd be good. Now in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. She boiled some water in the kitchen, prepared a teapot, and made herself some black tea. Such a pale-ass household. Like, that's so realistic. Just how, like, lack of sunshine is. I have you opinion rate 1 to 10 how satisfying it would be to kill Limbo when his event comes out later this November. That'll be fun. Yes. Wait, what leak? Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, it would be cool. Artoria would be a fantastic Grand Saber to me. But yeah. With a flop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. If spiritrons are particles that make up the soul, and they're used to time travel, why not use spiritron for magecraft outside of the Mooncell automaton? They do. That's what Chaldea uses. Chaldea uses spiritrons. She took a sip of her tea, then another. Look at how gorgeous this visual novel is. I don't think it needs a movie. But because it's getting one from Ufotable, I can't really complain. I don't know, I feel like it's time to give Stay Night a little bit more love. Lulled by the ticking of the clock, she took a third sip as she pondered how to spend her afternoon. The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her, and she sunk even further into its comforting embrace. Alco blearily opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. Hello, Alice. This was no dream or delusion. At some point, a girl had sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup, but the tea within had gone completely cold. She asked the question to the girl on the other side of the table. girl answered without lifting her gaze. When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Alco, and her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform. In Alco's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. She evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. The white of her neck was so lovely that even Alco found herself enchanted by it. The girl was one of the haunted house's 2 residents. Her name was Alice Kuonji, and she was the same age as Alco.
私どれくらい寝てた？
1時間と少し。ここで眠ると風邪ひくわよ。
Alice answered indifferently. Not that it bothered Alco, who was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw it was already 7. She had been asleep for 2 hours. The day had been a rough one for her, and she had slept little the night before, so it was no surprise that she had dozed off for as long as she had.
起こしてくれてもよかったのに。せっかくの紅茶が冷めちゃったじゃない。
私が来た時は。
Yep, Alice is one of the very few living, actual, genuine mages, witches that are out there. A lot of people get called witches, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are, because in the Nasuverse, witches are almost like a different race, which is pretty crazy. In her case, though, she is a bit of a half-witch. Her mom was a witch, and slept with a human daddy-o to give birth to her, so that would be called a fallen witch, almost, you know? But considering there aren't that many witches out there, period, anymore, it's still quite remarkable. Alco drank down the rest of the cold tea in one gulp. In the poorly heated Kuonji mansion, that was more than enough to clear her head and wake up.
こうなると、フォートナム&メイソンも何もないわね。おかえり、アリス。玉の贅沢もあんた抜きじゃ閉まらないってことかしら。今日は薬日か天中殺か。ちょっと早いけど、お参りってのも十分ありかもね。
Alco shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate.
それで何があったの?
After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Alco had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Alco gave her the details.
まず謝らなくちゃいけない。昨日徹夜で完成させた例のあれ、意味がなくなっちゃったのよ。ちょっと目を離した隙に沸騰しすぎて壊れちゃったみたい。そうならないよう、循環のコードを2、3本外したり縫合したりしたんだけど。
Alco tried to laugh it off as it was someone else's problem.
どういうこと?
Yep, I've got a lesson in magecraft on witches and witchcraft, as well as one exclusively to Alice here.
今朝休養が入って学校に呼び出し受けたの。そこで転入生の世話を押し付けられて、一日が無残にも消費されちゃって、帰ってきたら跡形もなく消えてました。怒る？アリス。
別に。青子の器物破損にいちいち怒っていたら、一生分の口論をすることになるでしょ。代用品はあるから、また一から始めればいいわ。それより、怒ってるのはあなたの方じゃないの?
Alice was very much on point today. It was true that, despite outward appearances, Alco was seething with frustration. That aside,
この転入生っていうのがひどくずれててね。すごい山奥で暮らしてたらしくて、 こっちの常識が通じないんだから。三問以下って言葉があるけど、あれって本当のことなのね、アリス。
Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name. But Alco kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Alco, after all, expected no sympathy in the first place.
初対面から尺に触るやつだったけど、教室を案内した時なんか失神しそうになったわ。そいつ、教室で教師と1対1で授業を受けるもんだと思ってたらしいの。ええ、それはそれでまだ流せる。許容範囲よ、あの程度の冗談は。で、私が簡潔かつ丁寧に教室の何たるかを教えた後で、そいつなんて言ったと思う？それで青崎、他の教室は何に使うんだ？ですって。教室に他も何もないでしょ？なんていうか、そいつは少しでも説明を怠るとそのままで納得しちゃうのよ。何も疑問に思わないというか、想像力が欠如してるっていうか、想像することに慣れてないっていうか。まあ、一度言ったことはちゃんと分かってるっぽいからバカってわけじゃないんだけど。
あなたが人を批評するのは珍しいわね。そういうダメな人、気にするたちだったの？
みじんたりとも気にしないわよ。けど、明日からどんな間違いをしでかすのか、ちょっと心配なだけ。
What she was really worried about was having to clean up that mess, if and when it happened. That had to be it. If not, it would mean she had no real idea why she could not get him out of his head. Get him out of her head, right? You found a typo already. She could not get him out of her head.
とにかく変なやつなの。案外アリスと気が合うかも。
三問一回はいい言葉ね。
But from her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. Alco gave a non-committal response.
ところでアリス、さっきから何読んでるの？
霊的進化論の二次創作。スピリチュアルダイヤ
How long is the full version? I'm not sure.
ああ、スウェーデンボリー。そんな
I
の
don't...
今更
It
読む
didn't
の
look like it was nearly as long as Stay Night, honestly. But, yeah. I'm doing fantastic, Gumi. How about you?
新書なら退屈だけど、これは偽書だから。
I am honestly, a little bit disappointed watching my revenue tank these past few months. It's really depressing.
彼の欠点と長所を劇的に褒め上げている。よくできた冒険小説。
Meaning I could use all the support I can possibly
立ちは
get.
だかる秘密組織の名前がカントとか気が利いているわ。筆跡はあなたのおじいさんのものだけど。
へえ、あの人そういう趣味まであったんだ。割とユーモアがあったのね。おし、
Alco seemed nostalgic over her now deceased grandfather.
あなたのおじいさん、夏に頼りをくれたけど。
よしてよ、死んだものと考えたいのに。
But what it doesn't have in length, it makes up for in quality. Alco sighed and laid back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight.
話は戻るけど。
Alice shot a glance at Alco. Her body, buried in the sofa, remained as still as a corpse. It was clear Alco had tuned out of the conversation. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. If she just ignored Alice, the conversation would end there. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake unresolved for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Alco Aozaki was.
いいわよ。何？
She asked, still lying down.
今日できなかったのは少し痛いわね。
だから反省してるって。学校優先は一人前になってからでしょ。
ならいいけど。
The coldness in her voice made Alco gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the silence told her was,
覚悟を決めろって言いたいのよね、あんたは。
today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between her home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other. And yet, that careless mistake was a clear sign of Alco's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない。これは私が私で決めなくちゃいけないこと。
She'd only known for sure for the last year and a half, but she had a hunch as long as she could remember. Make the choice and the day will come. It was little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Alco pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
オッケー、アリス。来週中に決着をつけよう。それでいいんでしょ？
ええ、青子がいいなら。
Alco could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Thank you, Gumi. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish thoughts of that country boy from her mind. The 9 telephone books that was Lost Belt 6's story. Oh, God. You know, we're gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there soon enough. You know, I just spent 8 hours reading a freaking event, the Imaginary Scramble. That stream will be up soon. It is, from what I hear, though, Lost Belt 6 is a big deal. Big deal. Long as fuck. But, yeah, so... I don't know, it's just looking back at my analytics and things. The videos that perform are obviously all of my lores. Lores of anything, whether it's anime like Sailor Moon, or Fate, or whatnot. So I should probably just stick to those, and my memes. Memes and lores do the best. Obviously, I want to make videos that still tell the story of, you know, Daikun and Dai-chan. I definitely want to, you know, develop them more. Maybe get Dai-chan in on some more regular lore videos. I don't know, we'll see. But certainly a lot of the types of videos that I've been making don't hold up as well in the long run. So yeah.
じゃあ下準備はよろしくね。私まだできないし。
場所は例の公園でいい？
妥当な線ね。あ、でももう一件の方は？
Well, no, that's the problem. When I mix up the content, that's what's causing the problem. Viewership drops significantly when I'm not just making Fate. And I've even had this conversation with, was it Saya 4? Whereas he doesn't do live streams, he just does straight up Fate videos all the time, and the algorithm is treating him better.
So そっちの方が急務じゃない？
時と場合、森に変化があれば教えるわ。
After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on her lap. Shop talk was over. Now they could return to their normal relationship as roommates. Alco grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Since Alice was busy reading, Alco decided to tune in to a variety show that had already started. Alice started to speak, but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raced to her mouth. She would always cut herself off the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint would hit too late, and she would make a gesture like that, one that she's making now. It occurred to Alco that the ah sound her cute little roommate made just now was different than the what she blurted in times past.
Nani?
Alco turned down the volume of the TV. Her intense eyes lit up like those of a mischievous cat.
どうということはないんだけど。
Really? So Fate Stay Night is longer than the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Bible. Twilight's nothing. That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
ないんだけど?
Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she should bring it up or not. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. If he could see her in this moment, Alice's father would have to admit that her name suited her perfectly.
今日帰ってくるときおかしなものを見て誰かに話そうと思っていたんだけど。
The answer's both, Normace. I love doing YouTube, but I also need it to make a certain threshold of money. I'm not trying to get more and more money. I'm trying to get enough money to, comfortably live off of. And at this point, when the money starts going down, that starts to become a concern. Because it puts a burden on the rest of my household, you know?
つまらない、本当に意味のないことよ。けど、どう考えてもそんなことをする理由がわからない。青子、人間ぐらいの大きな猫がひょこひょこ出前をする理由ってわかる？
For a second, Alco thought Alice was trying and failing miserably to make a joke again. One would think that about anyone, really. But she seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humor fell flat for Alco, this story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's usual attempt at jokes. Alco concluded that her roommate was talking about something she had actually seen.
その話には2つぐらい信じがたい部分があるけど、1つずつ論破していい？
いいの。私もからくりぐらいは思いつくから。ただ、理由がわからないから聞いてるの。わざわざ精巧な猫のぬいぐるみを着て、出前のてんやものを届けに行くことって、そんなに簡単かしらね。
難易度以前に、それをやる人間の常識性を疑うけどね。
Alice nodded tentatively at her words.
まあ、世の中いろいろあるから、私たちみたいなのもいれば、下界から遮断された山奥で暮らしていたやつまで10人十色よ。私だったら、見かけたら声かけて理由を尋ねただろうけど。
Alice's gaze drifted at that.
暮れゆく住宅街にさまようって。
A delivering...
背景が夕焼けだったらファンタジーだったでしょうに。で、今日の夕飯どうする？せっかく話が出たし、私らもてんやものにしようか。
No, I'm actually obnoxiously close to my financial goals if I could just keep it consistent. You know what I mean? It goes up and down so much from various factors that, again, I'm just so close. If even, like, a fraction of the people who subscribe to my channel just did the $1 tier donation thing, I would be set for, making videos consistently forever. Honestly. Like, no joke. Alco loved getting takeout, and her face glowed as she spoke. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made it a point to make enough for two. At the very worst, this meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that this was a system that worked best for them. Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, Nights like this one were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way up to the top of this hill, the source of their disgruntlement.
時間は8時前。ギリギリセーフね。私今月がいいな。あそこの月見そば最近ご無沙汰だったし。
Well, that's the thing. You guys have the power to stabilize a creator's income through supporting them, more so than the ad revenue, which fluctuates a whole lot more. So... Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance.
悪いけど、私夕飯済んでるの。
Oof. With those words, Alco froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items, so she was out of luck without an accomplice. Cruel society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver to a princess who only ordered a single serving of food. Incidentally, to counteract orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared the minimum number of orders will be 3 starting next year. Alco and Alice were still in the dark to this fiendish change in direction.
この裏切り者。だから帰ってくるのが遅かったのね。帰宅部、学校までバス徒歩込みで片道20分のあんたがなんで5時以降に帰ってくんのか考えるべきだった。
I guess all I can really say to that is, if you guys enjoy this content, consider just doing the $1 tier. That would help me so much, more than you probably think it would. And if you can do more, that's great. I should have known something was up when you didn't get home before... Oh, she already said that. Unfortunately for Alco, she had been too out of it to even remember that she was the one who'd fallen asleep.
ひどい女。そういう時は残された一人のためにお土産買ってくるのが暗黙の了解だったのに。私だってこの前の外食の時はアリスの分も買ってきたじゃない。
It was unknown how serious Alco was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and from the time she was called into school until now, she had consumed nothing but tea. It was a small miracle that her stomach was not growling. She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanting to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier.
この前ってあれのこと？
I started out with a side job, and I could not create good enough content nearly as often as I would have liked, so the quality and consistency of that content is what you're really helping to invest in for sure. And the streams don't make me money. Streams aren't what make me money, that's for sure. What did I miss? Looks like you're doing your hair tomorrow? I don't know how that's related, but interesting.
あなたが都心に出向いた時、夕食にお寿司を食べてきたのに、お土産はなぜかコンビニ
Is this a Fate game? Yes, technically. Well, if I'm just covering lore videos, they do fine on the channel. But yeah. No, this is part of Fate. I mean, it's all the Nasuverse, different timelines and stuff like that. But yeah, it wouldn't be that unlikely to see, in some degree, like Alco show up in Fate. And Alco is around on the Fate timeline. Toko certainly is. We see her in El Malloy. So yeah, it's all connected. It's just another aspect of the Type Moon world. Well, no, Elon Musk is talking about charging people to have their verification status, the little check mark, which I think is hilarious because usually it's people acting like they're like high and mighty, I guess. I mean, the thing is supposed to stop people from imitating you. So you could tell the reason, like, oh, this is fuck, I can't even think of, like, a famous person, like, I only have anime characters in my head. That's what I was talking about, Gumi. I don't need to make a second channel necessarily. Or if I do, that's a risk all in its own that I'm not quite ready to take. There's a chance that that would just totally bomb. Alco had kicked a hornet's nest. Who's your favorite Fire Emblem character in general? Either Tharja or Olivia or Byleth. I guess all three of them are pretty awesome. And who's your favorite Awakening character? Awakening would be Tharja, right? So, you're gonna shave your whole head? Interesting. Yeah, if Kanye West, God, of all people, wanted to, be on Twitter and make sure that no one's impersonating him, he could get a blue check mark to verify that that account is tied to the actual person. If Sir K is going to be a servant, that would be dope. We need to see more of him. If there's a chance to show off a character who's only been mentioned in Fate lore, but never actually gotten art of them, I'm always for it. Alice's icy gaze pierced right through her. Alco had certainly crossed a line by going on and on about how sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. But new things fascinated her, and she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miraculous. Even honesty can be a sin, given the right circumstances. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It's just grasping at concepts more than tangible things. It's like doing a lot of work and hoping it works and not knowing if it'll work, and maybe it will and maybe it won't. As opposed to, you know, clocking in to a 9 to 5 and getting a certain amount of pay. Maybe Lucina or Cordelia's... Sorry, not Cordelia. Lucina's great. Gaharis and... Yeah, Gaharis is a big one. Sir K was not a male version of Artorian, no. You'll get to see him in the Garden of Avalon stuff. Game King, until you are making enough to live off of doing YouTube, I wouldn't say you could say it's easy just yet, because you don't have that situation. Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. I put more time into my videos than a 9 to 5 job would have me doing 5 days a week, 40-hour weeks. I put more time into my videos than that. It's a little spread out, a bit more round the clock than it is, one consistent work shift, but yeah. What's up? Can I get some of your luck for FGO JP because you're rolling for Morgan? Oh yeah, she's getting a rerun, isn't she? I wish you the best of luck with Morgan. Maybe you can use Artoria to lure her in. Alice went back to her room without so much as recognizing the question. The fact that she did not confirm it made Alco anxious. Any video editing software you'd recommend? Yeah, me? Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is the way to go these days, in my opinion. She stood up, announcing her intent to no one in particular. I was trained in Final Cut 7 way back in the day for Mac, and I still use it on an older computer, But the program with the most functionality that has the similar style of editing now, because Final Cut went to hell with Final Cut 10, became a whole new piece of software that's basically a fancy iMovie, which is a piece of trash. I will not use it. So Premiere then has become the better home for a proper non-linear editor. Alice's hand froze on her current page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up, as if at wit's end. She walked across the drawing room with her book in hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned toward Alco.
聞きたい。
Ka-ching! Thank you. Wonder Shelf Amora. No, no, no. I know, Adobe went to a subscription service, which is an absolute bitch. It's an absolute bitch, but no. DaVinci Resolve? Yeah, that's not horrible. And then Avid's got their own one, which is okay. Alco nodded timidly, cowed by Alice's sudden vigor. Alice continued in her matter-of-fact way.
その猫が余った目に
Ah. With that brief response, she left the room. Kitty, kitty, kitty! Yeah, there's different ways of doing it, and some people get lucky with the algorithm, others don't. Yeah. It's hard to edit on a laptop if you're, like, really pumping quality videos. Walking around the mansion at night often led to mysterious encounters. Mist might suddenly fill the hallway. I use a lot of different things, honestly. I use After Effects for a lot of stuff when I have to create original graphics, as well as, like, doing things with chroma keys and lens flares and fancier stuff like that. But then, yeah, I use Final Cut for the other stuff, but that's an older one. Basically, Final Cut / Adobe Premiere. Now we need Elon like who to buy YouTube? Wait, was Sojiro in the frame? No, I'm talking about the way Sir Kay looks. He doesn't look like a male Arthur to me. He has a bit more of a, I don't know, a grown man's face, I guess. Mist might suddenly fill the hallway. Oh, there he is. Or doors might appear and disappear. You're right, he was there. Just when Sojiro thought he had seen it, with pig-shaped shadows mending the carpet. Interesting, it's like we just jumped time, didn't we? I use Photoshop, hell yeah. I'm using an older version of Photoshop with the license before they switched to a subscription. He heard the sound of birds flapping coming from the sunroom. As much as he had become accustomed to turning a blind eye to such occurrences, the sound of flapping wings in the sunroom was too much to ignore. Oh, I see what you're saying. And not just one bird or even two. It sounded like dozens. You know, I did just hit 90,000 subscribers, so we're there at least. We got 10,000 more, and I will finally get that goofy-ass play button. And I think at that point you actually get someone as a contact through YouTube that helps you when you have copyright issues and other shitty things happen to your channel. So yeah, we have just jumped scenes for whatever reason, and I'm getting a little too sidetracked by the side chat. I should probably focus more on the story right now. Is the English version already out? Not officially. This is a demo you can download right now for PS4 or Switch. The game itself releases on December 8th on digital, and it's available physically in North America on January 27th, but if you import it from Japan, you might get it there sooner. Yep, we're at the 90K mark. And not just one bird, or even two, it sounded like dozens. So many birds packed in the sunroom would inevitably lead to shattered windows and broken glass. Sojiro grabbed a broom and dashed toward the sound, prepared for the worst. Perhaps he was moved by his natural impulse to help, or desperate self-defense. His mind flashed to what a teacher had said at school. So yeah, they just kind of jumped us into the middle of the action. That student Alco was talking about earlier is this guy, Sojiro. And there's a point in the story where he goes to live at the Kuonji mansion. I'll worry about 2 million subscribers when I get to 2 million subscribers. That's a pipe dream right now. But yeah, so we suddenly zoomed forward. I guess the demo's trying to give us like little bits and pieces of the story here and there. So yeah, Sojiro is a weird dude who was raised in the mountains, which is why he doesn't understand a lot of normal social stuff. Is this a horror mystery novel? Not exactly. You know, it's a story about mages and weird stuff. It has kind of a darker tone for sure. Is Sojiro the Emiya Shiro of MiHoYo? Kind of? He's not the main character like Shiro is, though. So I guess he's living at the Kuonji mansion and is getting a little creeped out by something in the attic where he's been sleeping. At the time, school gangs had garnered a certain reputation among the youths. Sojiro appreciated the basic message of the lecture as he ruminated over it. The thought of broken windows had given him a sense of urgency, as if the mansion's very moral foundations were at stake. His roommates were harsh enough with him already. Anything further would only lead to rampant rumors at school about their cruelty. He had to protect the honor of the student council president. It was also concern for his own safety that sent him rushing to the sunroom. However, is Alco supposed to be the student council president? Because if so, she should not be doing that if she has obligations as a mage. There wasn't a bird to be seen or a chirp to be heard upon his arrival. Only Alice and Alco, sipping afternoon tea at the table that overlooked the courtyard, were present. The dozens of birds Sojiro had sensed with his mountain intuition were nowhere to be seen. Pretty sure that's one of Alice's ploys. He's just getting confused. Alice can turn fairy tale stuff into reality through various tools. It's kind of crazy. It was a lie so blatant even Sojiro could see through it. He knew for a fact he had heard the flapping of a flock of birds. Unable to accept that there really were no wild animals in the room, Sojiro approached the windows with suspicion. There were no feathers or any other signs of birds having been outside either. Of course Alco would say something like that as she watched Sojiro search desperately.
あのパイ嫌いなのよね。いえ、むしろイワシのパイとか食べたことないのよね。
Alco's stand-up routine was far ahead of its time. Sojiro backed away from the window and begrudgingly left the sunroom. Feeling Alice's all too familiar, inscrutable gaze upon his back. Just as he opened his mouth to ask her what she wanted. Oh! K.O. A blue comet crashed into his head. It needed no explanation. It could only be Robin, the mysterious bird that apparently the bird that appeared frequently in the mansion. Chirp, 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 it shrilled accusingly. The truth was, this tiny aggressor that assaulted him just now was the greatest of the mansion's 7 wonders. That's one hell of a hill, man. Imagine living on a hill like that. It's so frickin' steep. Sojiro encountered all sorts of people along his route to work. Still new to city life, he found the crowds of people outside the station utterly fascinating. In fact, they were the highlight of his commute. No two people wore exactly the same clothes or walked in the same fashion. With so many people, you would think they would all melt into an indistinguishable huddle, but each person he saw was different and unique. Sojiro was excited as a child, as he looked out at the bustling, diverse streets of the city. Closing his eyes in shame, he sighed. Yes, it's the Twitter bird. He was upset with himself for behaving like a bumbling tourist from the countryside.
ちょっと、青信号で突っ立ってられるの邪魔なんだけど。何柄にもなく黄昏てるんだか。
A stern and familiar voice behind him snapped him out of his navel-gazing.
なんだ、マッドベアに
The Mad Bear.
私はコンビニのバイト。こっちは5時からだけど。しずきは？
同じく5時から。くまりはどこか寄るところでも？
本屋に寄った帰り、読みたかった本がなくなってたから、仕方なく出歩いてたところよ。
なるほど。時間を持て余しているところも同じだね。
The girl who greeted him was Kojika Kumari, a work friend who was also in the same year at Misaki High. Though it would have been more accurate to say she was looking for a pretext to fight him rather than greet him. To Sojiro, Kumari had been the first person in the city he could look up to. They'd met at his first job, where she insisted he wasn't cut out to work the register after many mistakes, and convinced him to quit working at convenience stores altogether. In the end, she introduced him to his current job at a Chinese restaurant, the Mad Bear, a much better fit for Sojiro.
何その無理やりの顔。なんか元気ない。いつも以上にイラッとくるわ。
It depends. It depends. Aniplex is gonna give out, new streaming guidelines for, Witch on the Holy Night, so I'll have to work within those bounds, Gumi.
しずきのいいところなんていつもピシッとしてる背筋ぐらいなのにみっともなく丸まってるし。
Yeah, this is a beautiful novel.
もしかして悩みとかある？
And the fact that this came out actually a number of years ago, wasn't it like 2014 or something? Gosh. That these visuals have been there since then. This is just an HD remake of it. I mean, it's not even a remake, a remaster. Though her tone was stern, her eyes were earnest. Having grown up in the city herself, she was irritated by virtually everything Sojiro said and did. Nevertheless, she still treated him like an equal. Introducing him to his current job was just one example of her sincerity.
いや、別に悩みとかそういうんじゃなくて。
2012 is even crazier.
珍しいものを見たというか。
Sojiro could not find the words to explain his situation, but that did not stop him from trying. There were no problems at the Mad Bear to speak of. He liked it just as much as his job at Uotatsu, the fishmongers in the shopping district. In fact, his problem had nothing to do with work at all. No, his problem was a certain blue bird that would not stop pecking at him recently.
鳥につっつかれる。何それ。
I like her facial expression. That's really cute. How do you... Oh, nope, nope, nope. Don't wanna... There's gotta be a button. No? Aha! Circle does it. That way you can look at the beautiful... That is so gorgeous. Oh my god. Sorry, that's me getting too close to the camera. It's not available on Steam, unfortunately. Only PS4 and Switch.
でもまあ、青い鳥っていうのは確かに珍しいわね。
いや、珍しいのは外見の話じゃなくて。
He stopped, unsure of how to proceed. Words alone were not enough to convey the bird's plump body or the sound of its chirping.
ふーん。綺麗な青色と言ったらマウンテンブルーバードだけど、日本にはいないわよね。青いツバメだったらいるかもしれないけど。
いや、ツバメじゃなくて丸っこいんだ。図鑑で調べたんだけど、どうもコマ撮りっぽいけど。
うん、青色のコマドリは存在しない。しずきは縁日の青ひよこって知ってる？知らないわよね。いい、そう面白い話じゃないから忘れて。それより、そのコマドリって1話だけなの？
You could always try emulating it.
つがいは見当たらない。
People found ways to emulate frickin' Tsukihime remake literally the day it came out. That was fucking nuts.
生まれた時から最後の1話だなんて孤独にも程があるわ。どんな鳥かは知らないけど、次に見かけたら優しくしてあげたら。自販機で10円を拾う。
I don't know whether this would be the best start or not, but it's something that makes me extremely happy. So I'm gonna support it, whether or not they should have done the remake first. And if anything, this might get them to do the remake. Her words were perfectly kind, but he could hardly sympathize with the creature, after all the painful pecking to which it had subjected him. He wouldn't have called it the bird, he wouldn't have called the bird lonely either.
いいじゃない、小鳥1羽ぐらい。そりゃ都会で鳥につつかれるのは珍しいけど、いい方の珍事よそれ。これが
Goddamn crows!
カラスの大群だったら困りものでしょうけど。
あ、そういえば他にも気になることが。
Her example had reminded him of the mystery of the disappearing birds at the mansion. A stranger than strange event.
実は今あそこに見える丘に住んでるんだけど、出るんだ。大量のムクドリが頻繁に。そのくせ街に出ると見かけない。
当たり前でしょう。街じゃ鳥なんて見かけないし。あそこは山だから動物は多いんじゃない？
An English patch? Yeah, they're working on it. For the Tsukihime remake. There's a group called Tsukihimates or something, I believe, that are working on a translation. And they're doing it way faster than Hollow Moon, the guys who were doing their best to localize, or to do their fan translation of this game right here.
それよりあなた、あの山に引っ越したの？前のアパートは引き払ったって聞いてたけど、学校まで通うの大変じゃない。なんだってあんな偏僻なところに。
ちょっとした成り行きだよ。それに通うのは大変じゃない。大変なのは中の話なんだ。
It took 30 minutes to reach town on foot. The 40 minutes to the nearest convenience store would be the real kicker for most people. But Sojiro, it was no convenience for him. The real problem was the dark forces beyond human understanding that lurked within the grounds.
すまない。それはクマリに話すことじゃなかった。それより今の話だ。町には鳥が少ないと言ったけど、どうして？
単に環境に適応できなかったのよ。何？鳥の話には随分と食いつくわね。しず。
どちらかというと好きな方だけど。
そう、私は嫌い。そんな私に鳥の話とかしてほしい。
What's your best thing at McDonald's? I guess the Big Mac. Her statement could hardly be more self-contradictory. Minutes after telling him to be nice to a bird that attacked him, she was now claiming she did not even like animals.
そうだな。嫌いなだけで苦手でないのなら、知ってる範囲で聞かせてほしい。
痛いとこつくじゃない。いいわ。バイトまでの時間つぶしに。
Let's talk about birds.
さっきの続き。環境に適応できるかできないかってところからね。
I also like the English muffin, egg McMuffin things, but I'm not a morning person, so I basically never get to eat those. Never, never, never. Looks like we might have jumped to a new scene again. The morning sun alerted Sojiro the day of work lay ahead, or that a day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to, and an unkempt garden made for an unhappy Sojiro. Luckily, today was his day off from all his part-time jobs. It was the perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. Because these guys don't know what leisure time is. There was one problem, however. The mansion's grounds were vast. My wife loves the McGriddles, but, I'm not a huge fan. I don't like the pancake bun kind of thing. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, but the area around the front door had been neglected too. To tend to these problems thoroughly, he would have had to work on them week in, week out. In an ideal world, his task could only take a day, but for its enormity. For the moment, Sojiro decided to set foot into the mansion's wilderness and evict the weeds. Wasting none of the early light, he started tackling the ones around the mansion. By his estimation, he could clear the forecourt, courtyard, and backyard, then take a small rest. Yeah, everyone's so goddamn diligent in these games. I'm a lazy fuck. It's like, no, I sleep in.
どうしたの？彼。さあ、草摘みが趣味ってわけじゃなさそうだけど。
It was just before noon in the sunroom. If he grew up in the mountains, it just seems weird to him that he'd be like plucking weeds. He'd probably just be like, nature's nature. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find Alco sitting down with a fashion magazine and elegantly sipping tea. Through the window, she could see the crouched figure of Sojiro shuffling by.
朝からやってるみたいよ。起きてカーテンを開けたら、もうあの格好です。
I love how they do this with the visual novel. It's so fucking good. Where they're using the typical portraits in very unique and creative ways. You're not just looking at them, staring at you on a blank background, or like on a standard background. They have all these different angles and things to block the forefront and whatnot to create a sense of cinema.
いいけど、頑張るのね、彼。外はあんなにも寒いのに。
Alice quietly sat down. Her teacup had been placed on the table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. You guys love your tea. The two sat, passing the time in silence, having happened to have the same idea, a nice relaxing cup of tea in the sunroom. With their evening roles decided, there was no need for idle chatter. Alco stared out the window, intermittently turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book on rune magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if by unspoken agreement, in unison they pressed their teacups to their lips and glanced outside. To the two girls, Sojiro appeared as if he were an animal in a zoo. Neither was interested in lending a hand. Despite his sluggish movement, he was making good progress. As Alco's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met Alice's. Alice returned her gaze to her book, though moments later she raised her head again. Whoa, speedy speed boy! Oh! Face. That is such a cute expression. Like, what the fuck? Speaking of fan translation, do you see NIS America did to the group Geofront? Yeah, didn't they shut down the Trails fan translations? Which is bullshit. Because I wanted, what is it, Kuro no Kiseki? And they're not even releasing that yet, those bastards. So, yeah. And then they're like, well, you guys doing fan translations faster than our official staff is hurting the morale of our workers. It's like, oh, come on. Come on, that's stupid. Like to talk to Alice about Magecraft? Yeah. Oh, I know. A typo is not the end of the world. Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. It was no surprise that Alice admired Sojiro's diligence. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he had cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weed. Weeds. No smoking here! Without stopping once, the mysterious gardener left the courtyard, puffing clouds of white breath. The area he left behind was spotless. Alice muttered after scanning over his work. A stalwart Sojiro worked confidently and ceaselessly. The official translations have errors. Yeah, NIS America sucks. Alice and Anya have quite the facial expressions, yes. She was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie, but before long she grew irked. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. Alice looked at the clock. It was safe to assume Alco had come to the sunroom to escape her cold room. Between barking orders from a window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job. In other words, its complaints fell on deaf ears. What chapter is this? I don't know. To me, it seems like the demo is jumping from scene to scene. Just to give you a slice of how it's going. Hey, cool Kermit. I'm doing fantastic. However, you should be wary, young lady, for this is not a story of just warmth and cheer. From here we cross into the realm of night, bordering fact and fiction, and so let us now speak of the witch and her day. A bunch of vignettes. That's a nice way of putting it. The moon! It's Type Moon! Nope. おはよ
う。午前0時を確認しました。前回更新より24時間経過。バックアップ開始。レコード送信。周囲の地形をスキャンします。大気成分、窒素異常なし、酸素異常なし、アルゴン異常なし、二酸化炭素異常なし、第5仮説要素異常異常
Oh shit.
異常あり。周囲の時空連続体に齟齬を確認。第一種危険物との遭遇と断定。視覚領域を主観から客観に変更。
You know, I streamed the original Ys 8 translation because, you know, I beat the game before the whole NIS thing patched it. So I haven't actually played the game in its patched form, which is funny. I thought it was playable for sure. I'm sure the movie's gonna be good.
カメラを赤外線計測から虚数線計測に変更。では。
Well, this sure sounds like an automaton.
行為の記述を開始します。主よ、どうか我が身を守りたまえ。
Well, it's good when we have memes about desperately wanting a character and then finally getting the character so the meme becomes dead. That's always a good thing. I like the Heaven's Feel movies, so I think they should just keep at it. Misaki City was a thickly wooded area. Urban development continued unabated, but Mother Nature still drew breath in its outskirts. Wise old trees had been turned to lumber. The leaves had begun to turn to mulch. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure lived on, a testament to its enduring strength, until the time came that the devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Misaki City and Misaki Hills had been left untouched. Though driven from their nests and dens here, wildlife continued to subsist even today, no longer able to return to the days before man. This was just like any other forest situated next to a town. The cat and the fiddle. Winter had arrived in the woods. The chill cut like a razor, the icy air so thick it could reach one's bones. Exposed cheeks stiffened, and wisps of breath formed swirls in the air before disappearing. It was 1 degree above freezing. Ugh. The cold snap penetrated every nook and cranny of the woods, from the ground, to the trees, to the wildlife. You still playing Genshin? A little bit, yeah. Obviously stuff like Xenoblade took precedence over Genshin Impact, and some other stuff like that, but no, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm not getting very far yet. I'm just taking my time. And I'll be more invested when Dea comes out. The forest allowed nobody entry during the day. During the winter, it willed the animals to slumber. The still evening air felt like the stagnant breath of the lingering dead. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even closest of precipices, and hastening the untimely doom of any soul unfortunate enough to become lost within. The only noises to be heard were the whisperings of the wind and the murmurings of the stream. The immortal darkness stifled any sense of life. Not the breath of an animal, much less that of a person, was drawn in this place. However, a figure in black, not of this place, skulked within. It cast the tiniest, frailest of silhouettes, like a small boat lost in a sea of fog. Its trepidatious footsteps echoed through the woods. There, exiting the veil of trees, was the unmistakable likeness of a young girl. Have I watched Chainsaw Man? Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Interesting. Fate Strange Fake anime adaptation is coming in December. Yeah, really? Already? That's soon. Wait, what's only one episode? Strange Fake? I hope it's more than one episode.
来たぞ来たぞ。いるぞいるぞ。誰が誰が？誰と誰が？お腹は減ったの？お腹は鳴ったさ。どっちが食べる？どっちも
Oh
食べる。
gosh.
君は左手。お前は
Hungry Tweedles!
歓迎しないと。感激しないと。何しろようやく楽しいお客。ついでにお腹と頸骨も。せっかくだからよく噛まないと。
The shadows in the trees laughed ominously. A hallucination? An illusion? Or perhaps something real? The shadows frolicked in time to the girl's pace. Lame. It's just an OVA thing.
もっと奥へ、もっと奥へ。ところでダイスは細工済み？お腹の重いローデット。端っこかじったエッジワーク。どうでもいいけど肝心要の6の目だけは出さないように。
The girl knitted her eyebrows. She heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not be. Scary enough to frighten this particular girl? As if. Her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked of her own volition. If she had truly felt fear, her legs would be frozen. Deep within the trees, she was perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her through the still night air.
見たぞ見たぞ。来るぞ来るぞ。もう諦めろ。もう帰れない。あんなに教えてあげたのに。よそに消えないお前が悪い。
The girl halted her steps. Racket from the accompanying voices died in turn. The babbling brook suddenly sounded like a crackling fire. And then, across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city, much less these woods.
こんばんは。話のわかる人はいる？
The girl addressed them calmly. These men with their glass-glow grins creeped toward her like two slugs.
そう。ただの墓守り。監視だけが仕事なのね。失敗したわ。これなら青子に任せればよかった。ああ。
The one grinning man stood still. The other, shaking violently, as if unable to contain himself any longer, turned toward the girl.
青子にはまだ荷が重いわね。そんな姿だけど、あなたたちは一人前の魔術師のようだし。
Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat, darker than the deepest night. Two glass-glow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment that they finally bared their intent and emotion.
さようなら、お客様。きっと一瞬だろうから。お別れだけ言っておくわ。
I think the Xenoblade 3 DLC will be, telling about the first groups of humans at the city, is my guess. The first generations. A glass glow grin is? Sure. I feel like I could probably guess at it, but I don't know for sure. The two shuddered at her words. They had no mouths, no ears, or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that existed was the present. For these soulless creatures, Fears and hopes were nothing more than an unimaginable future. Then what could this feeling of foreboding be that they felt? The spine-chilling miracle that that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、ごっこ遊びをしましょう。お人形さん。
Grin from ear to ear. Interesting. Usually archived with blade being applied. Oh. So like Joker shit. Her song sounded like a bell echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that had gripped the trees. Then... Get 'em, Tweedles! The curtains opened on Diddle Diddle, the banquet of the night. In confusion, one slit-mouthed man swooped toward the girl. In fear, the other fled into the woods behind him. The deformed humanoid darted forth, kicking up water as it rushed the girl. She already knew that this fiend was. The grinning figure had scissors for hands and a demon's heart. It was a wretch who kidnapped children, mercilessly rendering them into pieces.
トゥイドル。
お任せお任せ。ようやく出番だ。あらよっと。
The piglets bounded and rebounded like paddle balls. The stuffed animals, over 3 feet in length, jumped and weaved their way between the trees. You really call those stuffed animals? They're like... yeah. Even with these strange creatures before him, the grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but what emerged from his coat sleeves were not the human appendages you would expect. In their place, fiendish cleavers, more than 1.5 feet in length. These appendages, which had torn so much of their prey to pieces, sliced cleanly through these flying pigs' skulls. His limbs froze in place. The pigs' bodies were sliced perfectly in half. And then, bisected from head to tail, the pigs' innards became his alligator jaws and clamped down upon the grinning man's arms. From fingertips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole. It was all it took to rob the man of control over his entire body. Another shiver of fear. These were no mere pig familiars. Immediately he realized that these were stapler monsters, disguised as mere pigs. Yes, we're staplers! We swing line style, yeah!
捕まえたのは D だってば。ああでも残念。ご主人様は無口で無情で無関心。結局どっちの手柄も同じこと。
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
そんなバカな! Its presence murmured 3 times. Not possible, not possible, not possible? Talking pigs were one thing. Even having one's arms chomped off was in the realm of occupational hazard. In an instant, the wood was enveloped in a dense wave of magical energy. Though vexing, it was still impressive. None of these facts were particularly extraordinary. These rare familiars, their bizarre attack, and the sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He had experience with all of these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all of this as well. However,
どうするどうする。いつまで放置？手足一本、瞬きだって贅沢だ。お支払いは面倒でも、できればポンドでお願いします。
what were they? Not vessels, not living creatures, not beings powered by magic circuits. Even though only his arms had been bitten, none of his body would move. It was nothing like being bound or weakened. This felt more like he had become words written in a book, fated to keep to their page. As if the grinning figure's deformities indicated, he had overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities. Illusions, enthrallment, compulsions, freezings, putrefactions, and even petrifications, a power granted to only the pinnacle of mystic eyes. From poisons to magecraft, he had weathered a great deal, but this was something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on a different principle from blood, flesh, oxygen, or heat. It was an unknown restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though it was terrifying to admit, it was as if he'd encountered something alien to everything in this world. I am ordering the one that's the limited edition from Amazon that comes out on the 27th, but I'll also be buying the digital version so I can play it earlier, because it would be a shame if I didn't. Fangs sank into his left and right shoulders. For the first time in his form, he felt rage seethe up inside him. The basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre obeyed some set of laws. But these pigs ignored this, along with his dignity. Tweedle's chomp! A howl. Though he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream. Oh? Did he get through, huh? Ah. It's like, fuck this shit, I don't need arms if you're gonna chomple them. The talkative pigs fell into the stream. That exasperated scream was the sound of the figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Armless, he rushed the girl. They may have lost his mangled arms, but not the object of his malice. A mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victim. A magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in its simplicity. At point-blank range, it was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. But tragically, that eye was all he had. He failed to realize that her song had changed. Oh shit! For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of shooing away an insect. Its green, verdant veins pulsed. Oak and bark covered its body, hardened sufficiently over centuries to repel even a chainsaw. On its forehead, inscribed in all manner of colors, was the word Emeth, though judging from its misspelling, the inscription was purely decorative. The Thames Troll. It also went by the moniker Falling Down, or alternatively, the Great Bridge. Admired in different forms, it was the first of 4 miracles. The giant responded to the girl's words. With roots rent deep into the earth, it raised its arms to the heavens without moving a step. Elsewhere in the forest, the grinning figure who had chosen to flee the battle was running through the night forest at full speed. Record and provide a detailed description of the enemy. Those were the orders assigned to him. He poured all of his energy into escaping this forest which he had become so familiar. In case of emergency, the plan was for one to challenge the enemy while the other made a tactical retreat in order to report to their master. He dashed through the forest. Though gripped by fear, he was confident in his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Nothing could catch him in these woods. Even the wolves could not track him. His bird-like legs thumped as they kicked the ground. Perhaps it was his creator's eccentric tastes that dictated their form when optimizing them for running. The grinning man could reach a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour. Well past the limit of any bipedal creature. After securing a distance of several miles, he turned around to confirm his safety. There was no sign of pursuit. His crescent-shaped mouth, nay, eye, slackened in relief. And then... After facing forward once more, he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down.
In the distance, he could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. They formed into a monstrosity that conjured up images of an arched bridge. Something resembling a giant arm. Now you're gonna fucking die, you piece of shit. Oh! Bayonetta 3 boycott controversy? I have. The more pressing one for me, though, is journalists getting pissed off that Bayonetta is, like, dating a dude in this game. And acting like, all of a sudden, that means she's no longer an LGBT symbol. Because bisexuals don't exist, apparently. And then there's also the fact that if Bayonetta is not conceived of as gay or an LGBT icon, then all of her sexualization is just sex for sex's sake. That was something that really pissed me off when somebody said, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you telling me gay people get to, like, have their own special exploitative gaze, but if it's for a man, if it's for straight people, then it's a harmful male gaze? It's like, shut up. Final report. Oof. Too bad you don't have Wi-Fi. Upload it to the cloud, so that even if you die, they get the data. Even Mark Rober's, like, fart spray, whatever, package thief bomb things can transmit the data when they're destroyed. Yeah, it's also this really annoying thing where, yeah, all of a sudden, people are like, you know, at first they were like, no, Bayonetta's sexist. She's a perfect example of the male gaze that's harmful. And then after a while, they're like, oh, no, she's totally gay. And she's a gay icon, and gay people like her and everything. And then they're starting to, like, go like, look at this. How could straight people even like this? Don't tell me that they were trying to design this for straight people. Like, they adopted her as sort of, like, their little gay icon. And it doesn't matter if she's gay or not. I think she's bi. It certainly looks like that from everything I've heard. But the idea that she can only be sexy and empowering if she's gay is really messed up. The girl turned on her heel. The invaders who had set up shop in the woods were eliminated. She had no interest in whether they had been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. This was the way of a pure-blooded witch. The way of a minster. You guys fucked up. The girl let out a sigh and stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into the ice water. There was no response to her melancholy tone. In place of the once boisterous pigs were 2 black dice, now sitting in the palm of her hand. As if the girl was about to say something to the scattered remains around her, she realized something that made her put a hand to her mouth. Interrogations, perhaps. Her slender, pale fingers traced her lips, as if reluctant to part from them. Sighing again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. Well, that's the thing, yeah. When Bayonetta at least has a lot of, like, official artwork and other things, making her seem very, very, intimate with her female characters. Cohorts, I guess. But other people are like, oh, this character's totally gay, because they just looked at him and said, oh, that's gay. I'm like, what? Like, you can headcanon it, sure, but, yeah, and then Nintendo's like, no, they're not gay. Which is funny that Nintendo would say that, because I feel like if that interpretation happened with, like, Arc System Works, they'd be like, oh, yeah, they are gay. We meant for that. We meant for it all along to be gay, you see? Uh-huh. And try to take credit for it, you know? This fragmented telling of bygone days ends here. Now we must fix our lenses and return to the very beginning. Make yourself comfortable. We've kept you waiting long enough. Without further ado, Witch on the Holy Night. Ooh, look at her. Arrogant, greedy, and only able to destroy. I must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. My pride has left you behind. My sincerest condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. It's so beautiful. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen watercolor gray. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke her up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today's were, for her, a blessing. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable. But today, classes were cancelled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was a gloomy gray, and it reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning by any stretch of the imagination, but having been up all night until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, what was happening outside was no concern to her. That's like me every day. She shut the curtains, then closed her eyes and tried to let sleep reclaim her. Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request would be mercilessly refused. God damn it! A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of a telephone. Much to her chagrin, out of habit, her eyes popped open. If you're upset that you got a phone call, you need to learn how to silence that shit. The telephone was situated... Oh yeah, it's the 80s. Of course you don't have that. The telephone was situated in the foyer on the first floor. Answering it meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's incessant ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. She thought her housemate would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at her prestigious little hilltop academy. The caller proved incredibly persistent. That persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder. She was left with no choice but to get up, throw a top on, and leave the room. You didn't have to put the top... No, we don't need the top. You could go topless. Well, you'd be cold. She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, when one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by dense forest. Winter always arrived here first, before moving to nearby towns. Would I rather watch all of Bleach or Yu-Gi-Oh? Probably Bleach. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated through the long hallway. The mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with the dreary morning, it could have passed for a haunted house.
ま、幽霊屋敷そのものだけど、だいたい2人で住むには広すぎるのよ、この家。
She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. The caller either had a lot of free time on their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. The window above looked onto the gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible, though she had a feeling that her happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. No, I'm not watching Bleach. I'm just saying if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Bleach. If I was here... it was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale. For whether it be objectively true or merely supposition, it is always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. Everything until now has been but a portrait of peace. From this point begins the story of a slightly naive, unassuming young witch. She's not actually a witch. She's just being trained by one. Takeuchi! Great art, buddy! I don't know, I like the new Fire Emblem's character designs. There's some people saying, oh, the boobs are too big. I'm like, come on. Anything that makes the character look female, you don't like. Just admit you want all of them to be this, like, genderless, boring slab of a human. Well, I think this is how the visual novel begins, too. Of course I'm going to get the full game. That was always assumed. It's just a matter of how much of it I can stream. They've got streaming guidelines, and I guess I shouldn't break them if I want to, like, not get struck by copyright, you know? People don't like the hair, yeah, but I think it looks okay. I think it looks cool. I mean, it's a 2-hour demo if you, well, demo with side chatter with, you know, live chat and stuff, which makes sense. Man, that freaking hill. Switch on the holy night. Da, 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 da. Maybe this is the end of the demo. I don't know. Oh, there you go. Thank you for playing our trial version. We hope that you will enjoy the rest of the story in the full release. Now, show me the money, basically, and they shall get it. This is one of those shut up and take my money situations. I recommend that each and every single one of you get on board with this baby, because it's going to be a fantastic experience. And buying this will support more Type Moon stuff coming to the West, hopefully, and show people just how much we want it. Promo video. Promo video. Was it just the intro?
そいつ学
Oh.
校も知らないんですか？
よかった。忘れられているかと思った。
This is just their trailer that they already have on there. But it's in better quality. Yes.
で、こっちの彼女が青崎青子くんだ。
ここで眠ると風邪ひくわよ。それで何があったの？
昨日徹夜で完成させた例のあれ、意味がなくなっちゃったのよ。
今日できなかったのは少し痛いわね。
Birdie, birdie. Type Moon's classic visual novel. It's woven in life in brilliant hues and rich sounds.
イケてる。二人とも気は合うようだね。
悪いけど、優しくしてあげる気はないから。
So cool.
これもちょっとした疑問なんだが、なんで君は怒ってるんだ？
あなたが人を批評するのは珍しいわね。そういうダメな人、気にするたちだったの？
相変わらず。無駄に元気があって結構じゃねえかてめえら。お前はこっちだ宗次郎。ちょい顔貸せ。
学校にあるようなほうきが欲しい。
She's so cute. I like that little, like, I don't know, dopey look on her face, but it's very cute.
なんかやっちまったのか？
青子、覚悟を決めておいて。
Are you gonna be a goddamn mage or not? The magic blue. Yep, here's some of the crazy action you can expect in this story. I mean, we already saw the piggies. But the carnival is one hell of a thing.
時々油断すると思うんだ。この町について。
きっと一瞬だろうから、お別れだけ言っておくわ。
青崎のことだ。あれに絶対気づいていない。
そうだ。覚悟なんてもう決めたでしょ。
Oh, that part is so badass. Oh, and the music. Dun, dun. Snark! Flat
最
snark!
初の試練はなんとかアリスに同居人として認めてもらうこと。あの子、私なんかより数倍常識ないから気をつけないと死んじゃうぞ。
Coming this winter. Yup, yup, yup. Yup, yup, yup. Woo! Okay. Okay, that is that. So yeah, there's lots to go. Yeah. So yeah, just a couple of things to leave off on. All the links to buy this thing are in the video description. I hope you support it. I definitely will be. I hope you guys support me. Always consider, if you can afford it, you know, joining the channel as a member, even the $1 tier. If even like a fraction of my viewer base did that, I would be set for life, just making all these amazing videos for you guys. There's that. The stream from yesterday will be archived tomorrow, and this stream right here will be archived on Sunday. So the weekend will give you these updates. And on next week, it's all Saber week. All Saber. Garden of Avalon lore, Parts 1, 2, and 3 are all coming out next week. Sure thing, Connor. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe, help us out here, and until next time, celebrate your fandom.